Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlan
and Tory,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Hello. Welcome back to Take the Leap. It's another great week. And last week we spoke with guest Danielle, who this is her second time on the podcast. And I have a feeling it's not going to be the last time. Chatting with her is always such a pleasure and a joy. We love having her on. And we talked, Ashlan, a lot about mental health, burnout, self-care, and setting realistic expectations for yourself, which I think those are all in general just like very common topics, but very relevant, especially to today's world. So yeah, I kind of just want to kick it off and talk about like that aspect of like burnout, mental health, self-care. I feel like you and I have been talking about this like from the beginning since we started our businesses, especially since we started them in the middle of like COVID, like true COVID times.
Yeah.
And it was just as important then as it is now. But I think what's really interesting is like we kind of had this like period of time, like a good decade before COVID, where the culture around working and like entrepreneurship was like a little bit toxic. And there was like this buildup of like the hustle culture and the girl boss phase. And, just like, you just got to keep working and stay positive and keep your chin up and, work around the clock. And, and if you want to impress your clients or your boss or whoever, you got to work 24/7 and always be available. And I think having that culture happen and like, having that lead up to then hitting COVID times where we were already burnt out and then this huge like traumatic event is happening all around us and there's literally nothing we can do about it. And then all of us are also starting our own businesses or trying to figure out like side gigs and things because the world's changing. And then now kind of in the collective after, it's just been a really interesting to kind of see that progression. And I feel like for like a very short time in history, we were all like, oh yeah, mental health is really important. We really need to get this shit under control. Yeah. And then now it's just like, I feel like people are pretending that it's now business as normal.
As usual.
Yeah. How do you feel?
I mean, I feel like, COVID, whatever time frame you want to call it, that, right? 2020 to like, let's even say like for some people, it was still going on in 2024, like a 4-year, span. That's a high school span of, of life. That's a traditional college-ish span of life. I mean, that's a significant amount of time. And, even if you just take it as those like first 2 years, right? 2020 to 2021. It was like a 2-year period that felt like a 10-year period because everybody had to learn how to do things differently. Like I felt so fortunate, as folks who were struggling with getting online on Zoom or Teams or Google Meet, like that I already had been taking virtual meetings, so at the time I worked for a national nonprofit that had staff members like across the country. So we had to, we didn't all cohabitate in the same office. So we knew that like when you got in a room with somebody else who's on a computer, y'all need to be muted. and sounds off and all of that. But there were many folks, who didn't.
Who
Um,
struggled, yeah.
yeah. And so there was this incredible learning curve that everybody had to deal with, right? And then also, at the end of the day, when you were not working, you either had to deal with your life and what was going on in your life, which, if you if you were one of the people who like work was an escape, you could just continue to work while you were home because what else do you have to do? You can't go out, you can't do anything. Or, if you didn't have that and now you need to evaluate what the fuck is going on in your life, it made it really hard for a lot of folks. Or, for folks like us, we started businesses because
Yeah.
like I started mine while I was working because I could, like I would have, if I had to still show up to the office like every day, never would have started this. Like, so there also are people who took it. I won't say took advantage of the opportunity. I will just say like had a calling and
I took advantage.
followed it. Like yeah, took advantage of the opportunity, and it's great, to have had that opportunity. Because now looking at what I do now, I would never go back to doing
No.
that. Like it just yeah, there's nothing in the world that could
Exactly.
force me to go back to that. But I have talked to folks recently who have had to go back to job jobs, and it's not a failure. Like I think there's so many good lessons that you can have from entrepreneurship, and then things change. The world changes. Like what is available for some folks is not, and right now, I mean, folks who work in government, that was always going to be like the cushy, I'm going to work here forever job. And now, folks are having, they're not. And if you've been doing that for so long, like what are your options? So I feel like I've gotten very far from your original question. But I also feel like, we had this really crucial time period to reflect on our values, to reflect on our humanity, to see what happened when we were totally cut off from people, like, I mean, you and I didn't see each other. Like, I think we were communicating virtually. I remember when we started like our monthly accountability things and
Mhm.
you and Justin were in the fifth wheel somewhere. Like,
Yep.
and you were like, yeah, I have internet right now. So I'll talk with you. And we were doing a little accountability huddles. And that was prior to Danny being in your
Yep.
life. I
Like,
think
we
it
were in
was just
California at that point.
yeah, yeah. I think it was like Milo and Piglet and your cat were dealing with being
Oh,
in
I
the fifth
forgot
wheel.
we brought her
Yeah,
once. We brought
yeah.
her on
And you
that
were like,
month-long trip, and she
yep.
was miserable.
Oh yeah. You were just
She was
like, I don't think
miserable the
she
whole
can
trip.
come back anymore. Yeah, you were like, I
No,
think
every
this is
trip we've done
terrible.
since we never brought her again.
Yeah, yeah.
Poor girl.
But like this, it was very formative, and then we realized we need rest. I think
Yep.
that's the thing is that like bodies need rest. You can exert a lot, but you will need recovery time. And I think one of the great things that Danielle said is that like you can churn and burn, but if you burn out too long, the recovery time to get back, it chips away at you more and more, and you can't, you won't be able to sustain that
That.
as much. Yeah.
Well, and one thing I'd like
Mm.
to clarify too is that whether or not you're in a job job or you're an entrepreneur or you know, do something else, um, burnout does not discriminate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could be in a 9 to 5 job and be completely fine. You could be in a 9 to 5 job and be burnt out and just resentful and like hating life. You could be in entrepreneurship and be feeling the same exact way. I think it's
Mhm.
it's not it's not just like one industry, one field. It's kind of the lifestyle and the
Mhm.
habits and the buildup of the environment around you.
Yeah.
And so if you are working a 9 to 5 job and you have a very toxic boss or work environment, that could be impacting it. If you go from that and leap into entrepreneurship thinking that you're doing it to get rid of toxic behavior or work patterns, but you work the exact same way you did
Yeah.
while you were in the job, you might be disappointed to find out that even though some of the things may have solved themselves, you may still feel that burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you go from one thing to the next, just expecting it to kind of be better, it might take time. And so I say that because I think there's this belief that is not necessarily true that, okay, well, I quote, hate my boss. And if I get rid of my boss, if I move on and, start my own business, all these problems are going to go away. And that's not necessarily the case either. And I think you just kind of have to take a look at, like, why are you unhappy?
Mm-hmm.
What is the actual problem that needs to be solved? And then how can you solve it? And will entrepreneurship fix that or not? It might not be entrepreneurship, or it might be. Like, maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
just you're tired of hearing the word no, so you want to create your own yeses, and that makes sense too. But if you're gonna probably, if you're like, I'm so tired of working 60 hours a week, and you go into entrepreneurship, there's a good chance that you're gonna be working quite a bit still,
Mm-hmm.
but it might be different. It might feel different. And I think that's kind of what you have to discover. And maybe you don't know that until you figure it out, or until you try it and figure it out. But I want to make that distinction really clear, that I guess know why you're unhappy. Know why you got yourself into burnout. Not got yourself, but know why you're in burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the actual problems, not just the symptoms, because then that's how you're going to make better decisions for your future. And I say that as somebody who has not 100% gotten over her burnout either. So maybe don't fully take my advice, but also I'm just telling you that these are the things that I've learned along the way,
Yeah.
is that life is not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to be able to fully control things. But I think as humans, as we evolve, one of those like key components of evolving is paying attention and understanding what's holding you back and how you need to fix
Yeah.
those things. So,
Yeah. Self-awareness is key.
Mhm.
And to quote our friend Taylor Swift, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Just, it is, yeah,
It's
knowing your own flaws and faults.
yeah,
And when I think, one of the things that you will realize as an entrepreneur is you're going to try freaking different ways, like 20 million different ways to do things. And nothing's going to be perfect, or I feel like I'm always implementing a new system, or when the thing that I have been doing successfully stops working, you have to look at it and be like, okay, why,
what's going on? Yeah.
what's going on? What can I try differently? And it's having that growth mindset, and it's having that learning. And I think the main thing is just like, don't give up. That's probably the worst thing you can do, but understand how you can move yourself through it, and get support. Like even having conversations with Tori about this stuff, and realizing you're not the only one, is really helpful. And we all struggle, but you'll find a way through.
Exactly. You will. Yeah, so I think just to kind of put the cherry on top of everything, setting realistic expectations for yourself is also the key component to this. It's, when I first went out to business on my own, I was like, I'm going to make 6 figures right away, which I'm like, I don't even, as a worker, I didn't make 6 figures. So like having that like in my mind be like, this is the leap I'm doing. It's like, okay, yes, it's possible, but was it realistic for me in my first year? No, it was not. Um, and so I think we're all our own worst critics.
Yeah.
We're all, we're all setting ourselves up for unrealistic expectations that we're not going to meet. Being realistic with yourself, you know, I want to start working 50 hours a week instead of 60, or I want to start, um, you know, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but being realistic with yourself, I think is the bottom line for trying to get
Yeah.
better and improving your situation around you.
Yeah. I cannot remember where this comes from, but there was something at some point in time that said try to stack your like capacity to 70% so that you
Mm,
have that flexible 30.
okay.
This is advice that I have heard somewhere, but stacking yourself to 70% so that you feel productive, so that you feel, like you feel that you're getting through stuff, but leave that wiggle room because, you could say you want to give, it's a trope, right? And all of the like sports players always are like, I gave 110%. And it's like, well, if we're only meant to give 100%, then like you are
Right.
stealing that 10% from somewhere. So, why not be like, it's like car batteries and things like that, right? Like, if they're completely expended, then your car just dies.
Right.
You want, or think of your cell phone battery, like, right? When do you set that sucker to charge? What
Yeah.
percentage do you let it get to? And know that you, as a human, also have an energy battery. And then there are things that you can do that fill your cup, right? Like Tori and I are going to go have brunch with Mary this weekend, and it's going to fill our cup to all be together. But, maybe dealing with a particularly critical client is going to drain your cup a little bit. And so having those things in balance, what fills, what drains. One way that I'm trying to like recreate my schedule is that like Mondays and Fridays we'll have no meetings, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then like being realistic of what you can get done outside of meetings. So that leaves me like a full day to create, to assess, to do edits, big picture things, and then spend the time in meetings elsewhere as well. But I think most of all, it just takes being planful. You have to plan for it and hold yourself accountable to it
Yeah.
as well.
Agreed. I
Yeah.
agree with that 100%.
Mm.
Um, all right. Well, before we wrap up, and you know what? There's one more comment I want to make. I'd forgot about this till I re-listened to this episode. One of the things I had told you recently, before this recording, that I am kind of working on like regulating my nervous system again.
Mhm.
And one of the things that Danielle said in her episode that she does, is she says that bird sounds actually will regulate your nervous system. And I'm trying to remember the exact reasoning she said, but she just happened to like pull this knowledge out.
Yeah, I can confirm. So birds, they sing when there are no predators around.
Mhm.
So assumedly, humans being that, we go back way back, that when we hear birds, it's because it is safe.
Safe.
Yeah.
And you and I
Yeah.
tried it when we last time we got together, and we were driving to go see Mary, and I was a little bit anxious that day. I had a lot going on right before I went to come pick you up. So I
Mhm.
had it on in the car, and we kept it on the whole drive, and we were both like, this is working.
This
Like,
is real. Yeah,
this is
it was
real. This totally
real.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So for those of you out here there who are trying to find ways to calm your nervous system and to regulate yourself, to relax, and everything like that, I highly recommend it. Spotify has playlists, but so does like the Calm app and like a whole
Mhm.
bunch of other resources like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go to YouTube, look
Yep.
up bird sounds, and it worked for us, and I needed that reminder again listening to this episode. So I will be implementing that in my routine again, because I listen to like instrumental music while I work a lot just to like help keep
Mhm.
me focused. So I'm going to make sure they have bird sounds in them, because then my body hopefully will be like, you are not in danger.
Yes,
You're just working. We're not running from
absolutely.
anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on that note, before we kind of wrap up here, let's do what we normally do, which is, what is your win for the week, Ashlyn?
My win is that I have been really working really hard on clearing the decks to create more space in my calendar. So time blocking, and then also analyzing, is something an essential meeting, or can it be moved to later, or just practicing like, hey, I need more time on XYZ said client. Could we push this to next week? Or like you said, setting realistic expectations, and just communicating when stuff comes up. So I'm going to take those as wins. How about
That's
you?
a great win. That's a great win.
Yeah.
My win for the week is that I've had several planned child-free hours throughout my week, including right now. So I had last night, I went and worked out by myself and had dinner by myself, went to the grocery store. Like I did a whole bunch of stuff for me and had like a me night, and it was perfect. It was lovely. And then this afternoon, I had some child-free hours so that I could get some work done without hearing him in the background. Cause like working from home, that is kind of the struggle of like, he's here still and I love him, but if I hear him or he knows I'm in my office, he's now started like knocking on, it's really
Oh,
cute.
it's
Like
adorable.
knocking on my
Yeah.
door, like, mommy, mom. And I'm like, oh. And I want to say hi to
Yeah,
him,
of
but
course.
there is also something to be said for having some child-free time to be productive, but then also having some child-free time to yourself. And so to have those 2 days back to back of having them for 2 separate things has been incredible. And the sun is out right now. So just the cherry on top, I'm in like the best mood.
The best mode.
So
I love that.
it's been
Well,
great.
talk about the opposite of bird sounds, right? Child
Yes.
nearby sounds. Or when they're completely quiet and you're like, what is he doing? There
Yeah,
should be
yeah, yeah. Oh my
some
gosh,
amount
yeah.
of noise.
But that's when I have the moment where I'm like, it's been quiet. Shit, why is it quiet?
Yep. Yep.
I'm listening back down. So on the opposite side, what is something that you'd like to do better?
I look at them every day. I have nicely organized piles over here of stuff that
Okay.
needs to be looked at, scanned, and shredded, and yeah, just dealt with. So
Fair.
yeah, that is something that it's a growing pile, and so I'm just like, there has to be a time when that all gets put to bed.
Fair. Fair. That's
How about
fair.
you?
So this week my focus has been pretty off. And so I would like to be better about focusing. So I'm very encouraged by your time blocking, because that's something new that I've been trying, a little bit of a system with that. But also it's just when it is that time for me to sit down and work. I don't know why, but this week there's been a lot of factors. The sun's been out, like schedule's been a little bit different, things like that, that I'm sure have not helped at all. Started my period, things like that.
Yeah.
But I would like to work on that, because I am a mom, and because my time is so split, when I do have those moments to work, if I'm having a week where my focus is just really off, it really does screw me over.
Mhm.
So yeah, like to work on
Is
my focus.
there anything normally that helps you like zone in and focus?
Besides medication,
Right.
I'm not taking medication anymore. I would say I have noise canceling headphones, And that's when I will play like instrumental music, or like
Mhm.
sometimes like I'm going to try the one with the bird sounds. Sometimes also the one with the, what is it called? Like the binaural beats or
Mhm. I know
whatever,
what you're
like,
talking about. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they
Mhm.
like go back and forth, but sometimes like those help like rein me in.
Yeah.
That's like my first line of attack is like playing
Yeah.
some sort of music, because then I can drown out like literally everything else.
All the other noises. Yeah.
But the other thing too that I've noticed is that because my office space is so small, if like anything's out of order in here, then I'm like focused on that. I'm like, oh, I should go do that. Or if
Yeah.
I have stuff around the house that needs to get done. And so I think maybe like relocating on the days that I can to coffee shops is like
Mhm.
another
Another
good way to,
opportunity.
yeah.
Yeah, I almost feel like for you, maybe finding what your focus routine is. Like
Mhm.
what is the thing that, like, I know for me that mornings that I don't do the morning pages, which is like three handwritten things of like getting the gunk out of my brain. Like
Okay,
when I
yeah.
don't do that, then I kind of have a
It's
fucked up day.
I like that.
But when I do that, because like, and I'll write the stupidest shit on there. Like, don't forget you have to pack your medicine. Don't forget you like to tell John that plants have to be watered on Monday because while you're like, like, and the dumbest things, and then like reflections on the previous day and blah blah. But it's all like it's part of the artist's way, which I'm trying to do again. But yeah,
I'm
it's
literally writing this down as we're
oh
talking.
yeah, no,
This is a
it's
great idea.
yeah, it it works sometimes. I like to give it credit, but it also just gives me a moment where I'm like not immediately going in my phone or not immediately going in email in the mornings, and I'm like having my coffee and I'm just like handwriting stuff. So
I like that. I'm
yeah,
gonna give that a try.
yeah.
I will report back to you next week.
Report back. I know. I feel like we need to remember
I know.
what we said. Maybe in the future, I'm going to list all our do betters, and maybe on like a quarterly basis, we can like rank ourselves and how we
Like,
did.
did we do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually a
Exactly.
really good idea. Keep us accountable.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in this week and listening. If you have wins or do betters that you want to share with us, feel free to send them out. You can shoot us a DM on Instagram. And if you have like guests you want us to interview or topics that you want us to cover, feel free to shoot us that information as well. Don't forget, if you're listening to this and you loved it, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel, and go ahead and leave us a review if you're feeling like being lovely today. That would be amazing. And until next time, we will chat with you soon.
Hey, bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.